Okay, so I'm Helen, and I'll start like everyone else does by introducing myself just very briefly. So I was a primary school teacher for 10 years and was getting to the point where I just couldn't do it anymore, and also wanted to get into tech, and then thankfully discovered the School of Code and started School of Code in January 2020, and it was one of the best things I've ever done. And then I was lucky enough to start working for Purple.JS in October 2020. And I'm a junior front-end engineer there and absolutely loving it. And I thought I'd just kind of say before I started that meetups and things like Brum.JS, I think as a junior and someone looking for your first role in tech, they can feel quite intimidating, particularly if they're in like real life and not over a camera. But for juniors and people that are looking for their jobs, if you've come, you're absolutely in the right place, and everyone is super welcome. And this talk is aimed specifically at you, and I hope it's helpful. So to all those people that you've worked so hard, learned so much stuff that you just surprised your brain can actually handle it all. You've managed to secure your first job. You've had a celebratory Domino's or however else you are celebrating in the pandemic. And then you start thinking, how am I going to get the most out of this? So there's a few things that I've kind of discovered and been told and picked up along the way over the last 4 months that have been really helpful. So I thought I'd share them in the hope that it could help you too. So I'll start with the first few days. I think it's really important in the first few days that you manage your expectations and don't hope to go in there writing loads of code and making so many pull requests. Expect to kind of spend a while learning things and chatting to people and setting up your computer and all sorts. But if you do feel like you would feel happier and better about things if you were able to start being a little bit productive, speak up. I kind of spoke to Tom within the first few days of my job, and he managed to find like a few small tasks for me to do, and it was really nice to feel productive. So do that if you feel like that. Be prepared to learn a lot and take notes. I have found Notion super helpful and feel like my entire brain is now kept in there. So I would wholeheartedly recommend Notion to anyone. You will meet so many new people, and if you're really lucky, then loads of meet and greets will be planned for you. If they're not, ask someone who it would be good to talk to, or see if you can plan them for yourself. It's really good to get to know people from different departments and find out what they do and how kind of their work impacts you. And it was really helpful. I asked for an organisation chart, because you meet so many people and hear so many names and different job titles, you will instantly forget them all. And having that has been really helpful for me to kind of refer back to and remember who people are and what their jobs are. Whilst we're still remote, I mean, not while we're, don't do it while you're not remote, but keep your camera on for as much of the meetings as you can. It's really good if you can see each other, and you get a much better kind of feel for people whilst cameras are on, rather than kind of when you're hidden. So do that as much as you can. And if you're feeling brave enough, get yourself really involved in meetings, ask questions. There are no silly questions. In sprint ceremonies, if you're doing your retros, contribute ideas that you think can improve your sprints. Talk about things that you've really enjoyed. If you're in sprint reviews, see if you can present work that you've worked on. And the more you're involved in those meetings, the more you're going to get out of it. I've been super lucky for my first 4 months at PB that I've had loads of support offered to me. Whether you're offered it or whether you can kind of go and seek it, a few things that have really helped me are I've had regular weekly code chats with another junior/mid developer called Dan. So every Friday we have an hour, and he set that time aside in his calendar. And throughout the weeks, I kind of make notes on things that I want to ask him, or stuff that's cropped up in meetings that I kind of want to talk through. And I found those chats really helpful, because it's just given me a place to take all that stuff and talk it through. Another mid developer called Liam has been super kind and given me an hour of his time each week. And we've been working together on my portfolio, but using the tech that Purple.JS uses. And that's been really great to kind of see it or kind of learn it on a much smaller scale, and it makes it a bit more manageable. That's been really useful. I've done lots of pairing, particularly with Shemek from my squad, and that's been brilliant, and it's given me a chance to ask him loads of questions, and he's been super patient. So that's been really good. And I think it's really important for those people who've given up so much of their time that I've really tried to show my appreciation for that. So tell their line managers or give them shout outs in meetings, and it just kind of means that they're going to know that you've really appreciated it. Getting to know the tech when you first start can feel pretty overwhelming, just because there's so much of it, and it was definitely bigger than I'd experienced for kind of comparing it to School of Code. And some things that have helped me start to get to grips with it was with Dan over a few of our weekly chats. We had a few sessions actually walking through the repos. So we kind of went from top to bottom. We went through folder by folder, file by file, and we kind of looked, and either I would try and work out what was going on in them, or he would explain what they were for. And that really helped me get to grips with, well, I haven't completely yet, but get more to grips with what's going on in the repos, and it's starting to kind of, everything's starting to slot into place now. Talk through the PR process in loads of detail and take notes, because I've referred to my document or the notes I wrote about that so many times. There's quite a few different things that go on, and it's been really helpful to have that written down. As soon as you can, find any previously agreed code standards. So they might be on Confluence, people might kind of be able to put you in the direction of them, but if you can log where they are and put into practice what they have in them, it's just going to save you some time. And something that's been really helpful that was suggested to me by somebody is read through PRs, because you can read through the code, try your best to understand what's going on. You can see the comments that other people have been left. You can read the replies to those comments, and you can even leave comments yourself and kind of just ask like why they've chosen particularly to do what they've done or what this thing means. And it's just another way of getting to grips with things. You probably will feel like you want to just learn everything in one go, and you want it now, but it's really important that you like manage your learning. And I was told a few times that you can progress like as fast or as slow as you want, and there's really no pressure on it. I spoke to a few different people on my team about courses they've done, and that's been really helpful, because I've built up a little list of what I want to do, and it means you kind of weed out the rubbish ones, and you've got more of a focus on what's really going to help you. I found it easier doing little and often, rather than kind of bashing through a 4-hour course every night, which would just absolutely burn you out and you'd hate it. Do little and often if you can, and it will just be easier for you. And life happens, so don't be too hard on yourself if you can't keep that up week on week, and if you do take a bit of a break, I'd say don't beat yourself up too much about that. And then for productivity, you might find that within your sprints, the tasks for you, or the tasks that you could possibly do, seem maybe a bit too challenging, or they're not quite right. So if that is the case, I would say don't be afraid about speaking to your product manager or your line manager about asking if there's any more junior suitable tasks. There might be some in the backlog that they hadn't thought to bring in. There might be some things that other people can think of that are good for you to do, and it would give you an opportunity to work more independently. Likewise, if there are things, say, in a skills matrix or particular skills you want to work on, or you've been asked to work on, and you aren't getting the opportunity to work on them, speak up and see if there's anything that can be done about that. Aim to be as independent as possible. So aim to ask people for suggestions and pointers in the right direction, rather than relying on them to give you answers. I think I am quite guilty of that, but and it is a hard thing to learn, but it helps you to learn quicker that way, I think, the more you have a bit of a struggle. And finally, I would say, think about what you're really working towards. Think about your skills matrix or the OKRs you've got, and write little notes in a diary or something, what you would like to get done about it for that day or that week, so you don't kind of lose track of them. I found that particularly useful, and I've carried on doing that for the past few months, and it's really helped. And that is all of my tips. So if you've got any others that you'd like to share, I'd be up for hearing them. So my details are on there, and thank you. that's it.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Well done, Helen. That was really good.
Thanks.
And thank you to